Welcome, my friends. This is Monarchy Incorporated. We return to Ireland as we approach the end of the 1880s. What a dramatic decade it was in the last episode. Brought the country close to revolution. On a couple of occasions, we now have a revolution brewing. I think it's on the way down. The industrialists and the trade unionists have joined together in their hatred for the monarchy, and I think, from the comment section of the last video, it looks like presidential republic is the way that people want to go. So the red dream will not come to pass. I'm going to let that revolution die down. At the moment, we're seeing a good chunk of radicals dispersing, so I'm going to let that number die down a bit. And then we're going to push to install a presidential regime in Ireland, bring the monarchy to an end, and see if we can stave off these various revolutions. So this is where my lack of military knowledge is going to start to show. It's a part of the game that I haven't kind of gotten to grips with just yet, and of course playing as Ireland, you can kind of get by without focusing too much on the military early on, and then suddenly 50 years is gone and you have no idea what you're doing. But the Dutch East Indies have just expelled an Irish ambassador and have changed their attitude to belligerent. I believe they're having a bit of trouble with an uprising. So all of this green region was part of the Dutch East Indies, and it's lighting up when you hover over it. So they're in some kind of hubbub. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this. We've been getting a solid drop to radicalism with the last while, but it once again begins to stir in Leinster, or possibly Connacht, which is where I think we will drop it. The number of radicals has been dropping significantly. Standard of living, it's actually still going up because of standard of living decreases. Our economy is skyrocketing as we attempt to deal with many of those issues. But, yeah, it could happen. If it can happen in Connacht, it can happen anywhere. It is the 20th of January, 1890. We have burned through all of our investment pool. There was a significant amount of it there because I have been adding buildings to be built like crazy. And we're up to 60 million in GDP. Our standard of living is increasing. I think the big issue at the moment is clothing. So clothing is at 51% over. And I am actually building synthetics plants to make silk. So 100% natural Ulster silk is being made. I'm also trying to deal with our glass and meat issues. Groceries have become an issue, so there's a lot of things there. Trying to keep this balanced. I'm enjoying keeping this balanced, but unfortunately we also have an economy, or I should say a country, that is collapsing into anarchy. We are going to finally push towards enacting this presidential republic. We have 47% enactment chance. The petty bourgeoisie, interestingly enough, are going to oppose, as will the landowners and the devout, as we expected. A parliamentary republic. Do you know what? I don't think there's any difference. I don't think there's any difference between the level of support for the two of them. As you can imagine, not much support for the council republic. But we do have, interestingly enough, support within the armed forces, which is communist, for a presidential republic. So I think it makes sense that they and everyone else are going to seek a kind of a common middle ground to bring the crisis that has engulfed Ireland for the best part of a decade and a half, I think, now at this stage, to try and bring that crisis to an end and to phase out the monarchy. By and large, a very quiet year has passed by. We've gotten through most of our construction list, and we attempt and fail to enact a presidential republic. The success rate has increased to 50%. However, King William has missed a cabinet meeting of his government, and their cabinet members were unable to come to any conclusion on how to proceed. So I presume we still have this big scepter in the parliament that has to be there for the meeting to go ahead, and that wasn't there, and the king wasn't there. So ironically, it's the king's absence and the protocol surrounding his presence in the chamber that has resulted to a failure for us to actually get rid of him. How can we expect our citizens to have any faith in the government if our king is not even showing up to cabinet meetings? The people have no faith in him. That's why we're getting rid of him. Did you not get the memo? Do you not understand what's going on here? So every single option here is the exact same. Either a 40 or a 60% chance. A 40% chance of plus 40% enactment success chance, or a 60% chance of plus 10% enactment success chance. 20% enactment success chance, or printed in the presses 60% enactment success chance. I've said enactment success chance a lot. I don't want to be mean to him and print it in the papers. Let's see. We could end up with just 10%. Do you know what? We'll print it in the presses. I imagine the Communist Party and the trade unionists who are being placated, I imagine they'd print it in the presses. The divils. A new movement has formed to preserve the monarchy. Their radicalism is very high. And decreasing. I think it was at 71. It's gone back up to 71. So I think that means that it's not going to cross 70%. They're going to take the navy with them. And the 2 regiments that I have just made in Munster and Connacht, if they rebel. I think at this point we've gone too far. We will have a republic, or we will have war. The radicals have failed in their bid to push through a revolution, and with a 100% success chance, we now have, in October 1891, a presidential republic. And we have a tricolour. Plus 100% authority. Plus 20% government ideology penalty. Plus 20 legitimacy from votes. We're going to have to see what we can do about the voting. We're probably going to have to hold on and see how this revolution pans out, or this proposed revolution. I'm not too sure if they're now going to get any extra support or if it's going to collapse. It does look to have jumped up a bit. The petty bourgeoisie, or the bourgeoisie, have become radicalized, as have the devout and the landowners. I think they were always radicalized. A political system where power is held by the people and their elected representatives. Republics have an elected or nominated president as their head. And so it's only taken us 60 years? Just under 60 years? And we have made Ireland a presidential republic. I'm not too sure where our GDP is going through the roof. We don't have the population at the moment to sustain an army. We're not actually all that long after exceeding our population as it was at the start of the game. So we could look to opening the borders. I think we can push up the numbers in Ireland and get extra soldiers in Ireland. I think we've plenty troops, plenty of a population that could join the armed forces in Ireland, just getting the military side of things sorted out. But the monarchy has fallen. I don't know if an election has been held. And here is our first president, Kevin Taylor. He's a hedonist and a bandit. And the interest groups were the industrialists. Did he become the ruler of the industrialists recently? I can't remember now. We have an election coming up in 173 days. And parties, particularly the Radical Party, are struggling to raise enough funds for all their campaigning needs this election. So we could send some money towards the Radical Party. which of course is led by the industrialists, but basically consists of almost everyone. I think we have three major factions: the Radical Party, the Communists, led by the armed forces, and then the conservative radicals who want to restore the monarchy. Now, I don't want to. We do actually have a lot of money. Once the buildings finish being built, we're going to go into a big surplus. So we could spare that money. We could spare the money for everyone. I'm going to say minus 10 momentum to the Radical Party, because I would like to see that bloc, which includes not the radicals, but the industrialists and the trade unionists. I would like to see that bloc broken up. We've just gotten a pop-up that Patrick Connolly, the leader of the intelligentsia, they're all hedonist bandits, has died at the age of just 47, as well as the fact that the petty bourgeoisie is threatening to throw its lot in with the revolution, which is on the way down. It's going to drop to 50. Taylor cannot provide it. We'll find someone who can. I presume there's more there. I think we'll accommodate their demands, because we are seeing a rise in radicalism. I think we'll accommodate their demands. They're sensing weakness in the new government, and they are exploiting it. So I've been looking at the figures here, and I've been trying to figure out how we've ended up in a scenario where services, grain, luxury furniture, and fabric, they're okay. Everything else has gone through the roof. How exactly has this happened? And I'm wondering, does it have anything to do? One port. One port. One port. Is this the bug? Gartner Ireland has been doing a... No port. Has been doing a an Ireland series as well, but due to some of the issues with the current patch, he's put that on hold because of the game's desire to sometimes mess with its ports. And he did say that that can have devastating consequences on small nations dependent on which are puppeted, such as, in this case, Ireland. So I'm not too sure if Britain is after doing something really silly. Kevin Taylor, a prominent member of the Radical Party, I believe you mean President of the Republic, has been accused of gross corruption. He paid a man to put up election posters, and it was disguised as a donation, a party donation. He strenuously denied all allegations until damning letters surfaced signed by him. So our options are minus 20% momentum to the Radical Party, minus 25% popularity to Kevin Taylor himself, or minus 10% momentum to the Radical Party because he has the trait charismatic. This is the first time that I've seen any of the actual traits come into play. And you know what? We'll go for that one. That's the one we'll go for. Well, I got absolutely no pop-up about this. Diplomatic play in England. And it's revolutionary Great Britain against Great Britain. And this is the flag of revolutionary Great Britain. They also are seeking to follow Ireland and become a republic. They've probably realised not having ports is kind of a problem, so I'm not too sure what's going to go on here. In the last video, I had basically this exact same scenario occur, except between Britain and a radical Britain that also had the Union Jack. It was going to install a monarchy, and it just ended all of a sudden, and it was really confusing. They invaded Ulster. It was quite exciting until it just ended in the strangest way possible, and so I just cut it out because nothing happened. Let's hope something entertaining happens here. So this is kind of a strange one. The diplomatic play is still going on, but the war itself has actually broken out by the looks of it. And there was also an election. The Radical Party has won. God help us all. This is basically the government that came to power in Ireland in 1948 when everyone was in government except Fianna Fáil. That's basically what we're looking at here. The devout, the petty bourgeoisie are off on their own, and the armed forces, as you can see, this blue line is what the armed forces would give us. We could bring them in and tank the legitimacy, so we'll do this instead. It's the Radical Party, led by President Kevin Taylor. We have the intelligentsia, which is under Arthur Taylor, how very interesting. The rural folk under Alexander Connor and Thomas Carroll of the trade unionists. So the radicals, whose radicalism stood in the way of progress more than anything, are now in government. So the war is about to begin. Pasteurization's been unlocked. We've increased colonial affairs because I'm trying to colonize areas. Russia has managed to cut us off in a few different places in the Congo. So it's 368 battalions against... Oh wow, we're the second highest. Just over 100 between the two of us. And they have 150 ships. So this should be a pretty easy walk in the park for the radicals. I don't know if I'm all that bothered, but we might as well mobilise. Maybe a bit too late. We'll mobilise Patrick Larkin. We can see that Archibald Sturrock is fighting a ghost in Belfast. He's losing to the ghost. Archibald. The Welsh people are fleeing radical Wales and heading for Leinster just as the Republic claims its first victory in this war that, you know what, we'd probably rather the monarchist British to lose. Oh, Archibald, it really isn't going well for you, is it? We've sent our troops up to defend Ulster. We're not even trying, really. We're like, oh no, we would hate for the Republicans to win this war. And Archibald is still losing to a man who isn't even, he's looking up in the air. He's not even looking at you. He's not even looking at where the armies are. And he's still beating you. I hope whoever is in charge over here is doing a better job. The devil, he's came back with a ton more troops. I think we drove him off the island, but he's after coming back with a good hefty chunk of forces. I think they're on their way to a victory. So we were defeated there. 7,000 wounded on our side to 15,000 wounded on the enemy side. Now, of course, they did have multiples more than what we had. Offense 35, defense 1. Do you know what? We didn't do too bad, considering we weren't even trying. So the revolution has indeed taken control of this area, which means it's now able to divert all of the forces it had there to Ireland. 277 from generals against our 30. So I wonder how this is going to go. Emperor David Fitzjames, his side is down to minus 90. The war has only cost him 2.5 million compared to 14 million on the side of the Republican revolutionaries. So it's a capitulation. Is it just me, or does it look like a Hungarian flag? The Republic has taken control in Britain. I'm a bit worried about this. What's going on here? Don't tell me this is going to be another Cromwell situation, you divils. They've also apparently started damaging relations with us, so I'm not too sure how much we can trust the British Republic. We thought that this was maybe going to help us, the creation of a republic in Britain. We're going to have to see how this plans out. That flag had better go away. That had better go away quickly. The empire tottered on the verge of collapse following the removal from power of Queen Victoria. The communist menace across the world has seen the major powers that do not wish to fall into the clutches of communism. It's seen them having to evolve and adapt. And the fall of the British Empire to be replaced with the British Republic has seen communist revolts break out across its former holdings. We see a division between New South Wales and communist New South Wales. The revolution victorious, Kevin Taylor and the industrialists have proven that the goals of the radical movement are achievable in Ireland, and not alone in Ireland, but in Britain as well. The Taylor cabinet will bring greater liberties yet. Ireland gets post-revolutionary fervour and plus 25 legitimacy. I think we're going to go for plus 10% of pops in Ireland will become more loyalist, because look at the difference in those two numbers, and this number is creeping up again. Our people are our strength. Hell's bells, but our GDP has fallen heavily. We were up to about 80 million, and then it dropped to 60. Now it's climbing back up, but I'm not too sure what actually caused that drop. When you see it leveling off there, that's pretty much caused as a result of the war. So I stopped purchasing buildings, or I stopped expanding. I'd also gotten kind of confused because, like I said, we've lost access to pretty much everything. On the market, we can see things that have relatively low demand and supply. They have high values, but electricity has always been a problem. But all of a sudden, grain went through the roof and has started to come back under control. Ships are a problem. Silk has always been a problem. Paper hasn't been all that much of a problem. A lot of things that were under control have suddenly just skyrocketed, so I'm not too sure what's happening. I mean, I guess everything is okay in the British Republic. They have 11 railways, we'll say in the home counties, and just the one port. That does give them, okay, it's now dropped to 81% access to the British market. It was at 100. Here's at 100. Wales is at 34. Lancashire has dropped to 61. We've 60% in the Highlands. So I'm wondering, are these problems being caused because of the fact that they have... Oh, they're building more ports. They're not prioritizing ports. I'm not too sure. I imagine that that's going to cut back on the number of convoys that they have. And that's where the main issue is. That even though they have the infrastructure, that they're missing out on the convoys. I'm not too sure. It's kind of a strange one. Because we've seen our GDP hover back up and just drop down ever so slightly. It's back up to 81. It's back up over where it was. And without doing a huge lot, we have gotten our standard of living. It was down as low as 2.2 at one stage. Grain is now minus 18. That was one of the most expensive goods that we had for a very brief period of time. Clothing. You see, this looks more normal to me. Electricity is high, clothing is high, grain is cheap. Groceries, they shouldn't be that high, but I'm trying to get that sorted out. Tobacco is normal enough. Glass is becoming very expensive. Meat is cheap. That makes sense. Wood is cheap. That makes sense with the way that the economy has been kind of structured over the last while. One of the big issues that we're facing at the moment, 107 peasants in Munster, 90,000 in Connacht, Ulster, 116,000 Leinster, 0. So we're facing a bit of a problem in Leinster at the moment. We might very well have to open the borders and encourage migration waves to Ireland to prop up our industry if we wish to continue improving Leinster. So I think it's fair to say that we have managed to bring the chaos that has engulfed Ireland for about 2 or 3 decades to an end. We were trying to see how would Ireland begin to push towards getting rid of the monarchy. The industrialists sought to cement their power and probably overplayed their hand. And of all people, it took the communist armed forces to come in and actually bring in a presidential republic. The Communist Party technically has had a great episode. Were brought into power, introduced a presidential republic, gave up power, and then its members defended Ulster as best they could from, okay, admittedly Republicans who we supported, but Republicans who don't like us. So we're having more problems with Republican Britain than we were having with monarchist Britain. Maybe the monarchy wasn't so bad. And I've just realised that we have the best possible surplus, weekly surplus that it is possible to have. I'm going to leave it there for today. I am having fun with this playthrough, but it is getting a bit strange now at the moment, and patch 1.2 is in the works. So I might very well consider doing what Gartner Ireland is doing and taking a bit of a break, waiting for patch 1.2 to come out before I continue on. I'm a bit suspicious of what's happening with those ports in Britain. But at the very least, we have succeeded in creating the Republic of Ireland and hoisting the tricolour over Dublin. Thank you for joining me on this episode, and I hope to see you again when patch 1.2 comes out.